What's up, guys? You know who it is. It's your boy Dekkster here, and I'm going to be doing another best decks video for the month of January. This one's going to be running off of Vicious Syndicate's Data Reaper report number 75. I'm not sponsored or affiliated with Vicious Syndicate. I just really appreciate their content, so be sure to check them out. They'll be linked in the description below. And yeah, all these stats are pulled by them. It's hard to argue with the stats, guys, so let's go ahead and let's jump into it here. First, looking at class archetype distribution, we can see that at all ranks, Priest is the most popular. 22.3% of people are playing Priest, followed by Warlock at 16%, Paladin at 14%, Rogue at 14%, and yeah, it just Shaman and Warrior, not a lot of love, not a lot of love. If we go to ranks 5 to 1, we can see it's very similar actually. Maybe a little bit more Paladin going around, just because Paladin's a great deck. Or they just have a couple great archetypes right now, so it's understandable to see them in ranks 5 to 1. If we look at legend, it's going to be mostly Priest and Rogue. Some Warlock still, but it seems like Rogue and Priest, just like last expansion, are going to be the top dogs. And then nobody's loving Shaman over here. Nobody likes Shaman. Shaman below 2% here. Pretty sad. If we go into class frequency, we can see, I like looking at the by week. Like by day, things are going to fluctuate a lot. I prefer looking at the weekly chart. So we can see Priest is actually dropping a little bit down compared to last week. And reason being that Rogue is probably shooting up a bit. We also have Druid actually going up a surprising amount. Jade Druid starting to be a little bit popular, with good reason. It's a great deck. And yeah, I mean, look at the chart. It's interesting. Interesting. We can look at the matchup win rates here if you want to look at that. Just see what deck to play against what. Seems like Aggro Paladin doesn't have a lot of weak spots. Tempo Rogue doesn't have a lot of weak spots. And yeah, in return, if they're not weak against many decks, it's going to be a high power ranking. Speaking of power rankings, let's look at the power rankings here. For all ranks, the tier 1 decks are Aggro Paladin, Tempo Rogue, Murloc Paladin, and Zoo Warlock. And closely behind those two, Dragon Priest and Aggro Druid. And then for ranks 5 to 1, we got Aggro Paladin, Tempo Rogue, Aggro Druid, Zoo Warlock, and Murloc Paladin for tier 1. And then for legend, top deck actually Zoo Warlock. And then Tempo Rogue, Aggro Druid, Dragon Priest, and Aggro Paladin. So I'm sure like the top 5 decks seem to be Zoo Warlock, Tempo Rogue, Aggro Druid, Dragon Priest, and Aggro Paladin. Like, yeah, other decks are great, such as Murloc Paladin, Big Priest, Seeker Mage, Rizakis Priest, Pirate Warrior, but per the stats, these seem to be the top 5 decks right there. If we look at Metascore, which is a new thing they're introducing here, the closer to the top right, the better the deck is. Meta peak would be 100. So if we actually look at the legend ladder here, Tempo Rogue is damn near perfect Metascore, guys. So the higher the Metascore, the better the deck will do, theoretically. So Tempo Rogue seems to be number 1, and then we got Control Warlock doing well, followed by Rizakis Priest, and of course Aggro Paladin's up there. So lots of good choices to make, lots of fun decks going around. So I'm going to go through each class individually and kind of talk about my favorite 1 or 2 decks. I'm usually going to stick with 1 deck, but if there's a lot of archetypes going around, I'll talk about 2 decks. First up, we got Priest. So Priest has really cool archetypes rolling around right now. There's always the combo Priest, the Dragon Priest, and Rizakis Priest. My favorite one, I think the most exciting one, is the Spiteful Dragon Priest, or Summoner Priest, or whatever you want to call it. Big spell for, I don't know, whatever. This is a fun deck. I think it was popularized by Satellite. But anyways, this list is a lot of fun. It has a lot of new elements in it, such as Duskbreaker. We got Spiteful Summoner and Grand Archivist, as well as, you know, Corridor Creeper, of course. But I just like this one because I like playing some new cards. And this one has some new cards. It's fun. There's some RNG with Spiteful Summoner. But the RNG is interesting in a way that you're always going to have great value out of your Spiteful Summoner. Even if it pulls like the worst 8 or 10 drop possible, it's still going to give you good value. 6 mana for a 4/4 plus a random body is solid. Solid. It's amazing. There is another variation of this deck rolling around with like Patches and Keleseth or something like that. Or Patches and Southseas. I don't even know. Keleseth, you know, I just like this one better. This one seems more consistent. It has Netherspite Historian as well as Fairy Dragons, and the Fairy Dragons add a lot of consistency as far as Draconid Operatives getting their value and Duskbreakers getting their value. There's been too many times where I'm running the Patches variation. I got a Duskbreaker in hand, my opponent has taken over the board, and I can't activate my Duskbreaker or my Operative because I don't have another dragon in hand. So yeah, that's all we got for Priest. So next up we got Warlock to talk about, and they have two really cool archetypes rolling around. We got Zoolock and Control Warlock. There's the classic sort of Control Warlock, but then there's this Giant's Cube variation, which is really nice because your hand's usually going to be flooded with cards, so why not get some cheap Giants out there? We still have the Cube with Dark Pact and, you know, the Skull of Minari synergy sort of stuff going around. We have Faceless Manipulators, because if you copy your cube, you also get its Death Rattle. And yeah, this list is just great. It's a lot of fun to play. We also have Taldaram, because that's another way to copy your cubes or a Doomguard or whatever you want. Plus, you got Gul'dan to bring all your Doomguards back. It's just a really fun list. If you haven't tried it out, but you have the cards, definitely look into this one. It's a very interesting archetype that has emerged because of Kobolds and Catacombs. Next up, we got Zoo. This is Xixo's Keleseth Zoo Warlock, and I'm a big fan of Zoo Warlock. I've just always enjoyed the archetype, and it's solid. It's solid, guys. It is running Keleseth. It is running Patches, so if you don't like those cards, you just refuse to play Keleseth, then this isn't your deck. And he's not really replaceable. You can replace him with like homunculuses and stuff, but then you got to rework the whole deck. It's just not really worth it. I don't know, like, just play this deck. You have the cards, play it. This one's great. It performs really well, and in Legend, Zoo Warlock's actually rank 1 in terms of strength, right? According to the power rankings anyway, not according to the Metascore or anything. Definitely check out these two Warlock lists. They're great. They're great. So I want to talk about a couple rogue decks as well. One that's good and one that's kind of just fun. We got Dog's Mill Kingsbane Rogue, and he was doing well with this, but he is an amazing player. This one does have a high skill cap, I feel like, and yeah, just if you really want to use your Kingsbane, you want to get some of that action in there, this is definitely a fun one. We're running Kingsbane, of course. We got some Doomerang for that Kingsbane action. We're running Evasion in this thing even, and we also got, you know, Valera, the Elven Minstrel, and even a Blade Flurry for that sick AoE once you buff up your Kingsbane. Of course, the main thought process with this archetype is to just get a big Kingsbane and start whacking things, destroying things, and your opponent can't really deal with your Kingsbane because it keeps coming back. It keeps going in your deck, and you keep destroying things. So if you got a free Kingsbane, go ahead and check it out. If you're thinking of crafting Kingsbane just to play this, it's not necessarily like a tier 1 deck, so take that in consideration. If you do want a tier 1 deck, though, we got Tempo Rogue, which is amazing. This one is Meati's Tempo Rogue, and it's very, very similar to Tempo Rogue of the days past, or expansions past, I should say, just last expansion. What are the new additions? Of course, the ever OP Corridor Creeper, and then we also got Elven Minstrel. But yeah, solid deck, because the archetype is just so strong, and it's probably going to be, you know, prominent for the remainder of the expansion, or unless something changes. Maybe Patches gets rotated out or something like that. I might change things. But yeah, Rogue, really solid class in this expansion. Paladin's actually really good right now, and probably main reason for that is Call to Arms. Well, in addition to Corridor Creeper, they're both amazing, and they fit this deck archetype so well. You basically just flood the board with things, and you buff them. Your opponent clears the board, and then you play Call to Arms, and you reflood the board, and then they clear it again, then you play another Call to Arms. And if they do end up clearing the board, you get free Corridor Creepers. Plus, you also got Taram, since you have a bunch of tokens on the board. In a way, it's kind of similar to, like, kind of like Token Druid in a way, because you know, you're buffing up your boys with unidentified mauls, and your Tarim in a way kind of buffs them up to 3/3s, your Blessing of Kings. It's just a really strong archetype. Plus, you know, Knife Juggler just constantly throwing daggers around. Never gets old, guys. It never gets old. This is just a top tier deck, and it's probably going to stay that way. It's probably going to stay the aggro deck of the expansion. Unless something weird happens. But yeah, I feel like that's a safe bet to make. We also have Murloc Paladin, such as BoarControl's Murloc Paladin here. And yeah, it's a great deck. Yeah, it's probably tier 1 and it can take you to legend easy. High ranks of legend, probably. But it just seems that aggro Paladin's a little bit better, has less weaknesses. This deck is not strong enough to bring Hungry Crabs back or anything like that, though. So if you're feeling an itch for some Murlocs, this is not a bad way to go about it. You can definitely snowball and nut out of control by using this. So it's definitely one to keep your eye on. And yeah, they're both great archetypes. Look into both of these. You have the cards for them both. Try them both out. See which fits your playstyle better. If you're tight on dust and can only craft one, make it the standard aggro Paladin. So Druid is actually doing a lot better than they were in the beginning of the expansion. And you know, one of those reasons is probably Sjow's Oaken Jade Druid. A lot of people finding success with this one. It's a lot of fun, and it's also using a lot of cards, which I'm always a fan of. A lot of cards, a lot of new cards is what I meant to say. We got Lesser Jasper Spellstone in there. We got some Branching Paths action. We got some Ironwood Golem in there. Some Oaken Summons, Arcane Tyrant, and that's enough to make it exciting for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well. And this list is just doing great, doing amazing. So if you're missing your Jade Druid, go ahead and get some Jade Druid action in there before it gets rotated out. So Sjow just doing really good with this. Really, really, really good. So yeah, I mean, that's all I got to say about that. Other than that, we got standard aggro Druid. Aggro Druid's always been doing solid. I personally hit legend with this list last season. And it's like, it's hard to counter. If you're not just right, it's better than aggro Paladin, in my experience, because you could just go wider and taller than they can. So yeah, this one's a little bit rough without living mana. I was playing a free-to-play version of this without living mana, and it's a little bit rough. So if you don't have living mana, maybe look into something else. But overall, this list is really not that expensive. Only legendary being Patches the Pirate, of course. So yeah, you should have Patches, and if you don't, he's probably still worth the craft, even though he's going to be rotated out soon. He's just great. So yeah, this is pretty much the same list as last expansion, except we're adding Corridor Creepers and Dire Moles in there. Other than that, maybe a little bit stale, maybe. But yeah, overall, great, solid list if you're looking for something to climb, really. So Mage has a few interesting archetypes. We got Secret Mage, Exodia Mage, and Big Spell Mage. But best one out there right now seems to be Secret Mage. Sadly, Big Spell Mage and Exodia Mage just not keeping up with the meta. So best Secret Mage list out there is probably Orange's list. It's a lot of fun. It's really good. And it's got the insanely OP explosive runes, which is almost better than Fireball. Plus, it's cheaper and is just hard to play around, so I'm really loving that card. This list is hard to play with Aluneth, so if you don't have that, just look for something else. Like, you could still win games with Aluneth, but it's gonna drop the win percentage by probably like 5% or something like that. And I'm just pulling that number out of my ass, but it's like, it's a big deal, is just what I'm trying to say. Pyroblast has great synergies with Ice Block. Hopefully, you know, you can draw your Pyroblast if your opponent's close to death, but you're also close to death, and then they pop your Ice Block, and then the next turn you Pyroblast them in the face. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of fun. It's a great list, and Cabal Lackey actually works really well with this, because if you end up using that Aluneth, you're gonna maybe be in overdraw territory. So getting a Lackey allows you to empty your hand at the least amount of mana. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it lets you dump your hand pretty easy. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, sadly, Mage not doing too hot this expansion, but it's doing better than the next couple classes. So Hunter had a really explosive start at the beginning of this expansion with the spell-only Hunter, or minionless Hunter, whatever you want to call it. But sadly, that era seems to be fading away. Secret Hunter and Spell Hunter almost becoming a thing of the past. Like, yeah, they're still solid, but it seems like the best list out there is just the Aggro Hunter archetype. We have Senf Glasses Aggro Hunter here, and it's really similar to Aggro Hunter of days past, except we're adding Candleshot, we're adding some Dire Moles in there, and Corridor Creeper, of course, because everything that can add Corridor Creeper probably should. It's just broken. But yeah, Push and Face seems to be really good. But sadly, as an aggro archetype, it just seems like Paladin does it a little bit better. But if you really just want to stick to your Hunter guns, Aggro Hunter is probably your best bet right now. Sadly, seems to be in the bottom 3 classes this expansion. So hopefully something spices this up a little bit. But as of right now, you might want to stick to Aggro Hunter if you're looking to push ranks. So Warrior, sadly, in the bottom 2 classes for this expansion. Maybe it's all because of the Fiery War Axe nerf that really put them behind. And it's just been rough ever since then for them. And unfortunately, that Fiery War Axe nerf kind of nerfed all archetypes of Warrior, and not just Pirate Warrior, like I think they were kind of intending to. And actually, Pirate Warrior is the best Warrior archetype still. We've kind of just replaced that 2 slot with Prince Keleseth here in Koromisu's Pirate Warrior list. And it performs okay. I don't know why you would choose this over other classes like Tempo Rogue or Aggro Paladin, unless you're just trying to be a hipster warrior player, you know? This is a solid list, though. It is running Spiteful Summoner and lesser mithril spellstones. Thought process there being your summoner pulls the spellstones pretty consistently, so you're going to get some decent value out of that. Plus, it's pretty easy to upgrade your spellstones. So, list is all right, not bad. It's the best Warrior seems to have available to them right now. I'm sure there's some sort of control archetype out there that's decent, but this seems to be the most viable option as of right now. Hopefully things change, but yeah, things are looking rough for Warrior. So Shaman is probably, it's definitely the worst class in the current expansion. There's no reason to play Token Shaman or Aggro Shaman over other archetypes, which kind of just makes me sad. It should make you guys sad too. We really need a good Shaman archetype, but it's not there. Hopefully next expansion brings more tools to Shaman, I guess. But as of right now, the best list out there seems to be Citizen Nappa's Aggro Shaman, and there's no reason to play this over Aggro Paladin or anything like that, unless, of course, once again, you just want some Shaman action, Shaman bragging rights. I don't know. But this one's kind of cool because it's aggro, so you kind of just whack them in the face, and hopefully you can finish them off with spells such as Jade Lightning, Lava Burst, and Lightning Bolt. I have played this list a bit, and it's actually, it performed better than I had expected. So there's that. It's fun, but it's just not as good as other archetypes. But yeah, I do like this list. As far as Shaman goes, it's the best list. Maybe I think it's the best list. So yeah, that's about it. Sad days for Shaman right now. Very sad days. Hopefully they make a comeback, but it's not looking too good. Not looking too good at all. So that's all we got for this report, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're looking for a budget list, I'm thinking Aggro Druid's probably the way to go. Like if you don't have One Night in Karzhan. And yeah, just check out my previous videos. I have a list that I was playing. I hit rank 10 on EU, which really isn't impressive at all, but it was super budget. Of course, the deck that you should make really depends on what cards you have, such as if you have nothing but you do have Aluneth, you might want to make Secret Mage, right? And if you have the Warlock weapon, and you got some Void Daddies, then you probably want to make Q block or something like it really depends on what you have. So just take that into consideration when you're building a deck or committing to a deck. Yeah, as far as best deck though, probably Tempo Rogue. I think Tempo Rogue is going to be the best here in the upcoming month. So definitely look into that. And yeah, if you like the video, please like the video, sub, and if you share, I would appreciate that as well. I am streaming on Twitch too, so if you want to follow me over there on Twitch, I try and stream during weekdays. So yeah, I appreciate the support, guys, and that's about it. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!